Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about future continuous tense. In the last video where I had discussed about simple future tense, future continuous is a little advanced than simple future. In the sense that simple future will only tell you about a particular action to be happening in future, whereas future continuous will tell us about the continuity of an action in future. And this tense is on the same lines of present continuous and past continuous. So let's talk about future continuous today, where I'll be teaching you the difference between simple future and future continuous, how to form this tense and when to use this tense, and also when not to use this tense. So let's begin our lesson today with a big smile on the face. Let's first refresh our knowledge on simple future tense. Future tense is used to talk about activities which will happen in later point of time, like an activity which will happen in future and that activity will be completed there and then. Look at this example. I will arrive at 5 o'clock. What's the future tense here? Will arrive, which means at 5 o'clock I will arrive at that place in future, and that activity will finish there and then it will be completed. But in case of future continuous, the same activity will be continued for some time. Look at the timeline here. Say suppose I have an activity here in future at this point, then this activity is likely to be continued for some time. Let's say my activity starts at 5 o'clock and it will continue for some time. So in that case, I will use the tense future continuous. For example, at 5 o'clock, I will be speaking in the seminar. Now, if you look here, the activity of speaking will be continued for some time at 5 o'clock. So in future continuous tense, we generally give a time reference, the point at which that action will begin to happen or start and continue for some time. Now, after knowing the concept and the difference between simple future and future continuous, let's go to its formation and look how it is formed in positive, negative and interrogative structures. In the structures of future continuous, I and we are taken as the first person. So with the first person, we generally use either shall or will. And after that, we use the verb be and ing form of the base form of the verb. Now, ing form is also called as present participle. Let's take the verb speak. So let's start making the sentences now. I shall be speaking, or I can also say I will be speaking. Again, we shall be speaking. The difference here between shall and will depends on the context of the sentence. That if you are willing to do a normal future activity, then we generally use shall with I or be. But if you intend any kind of determination or promise, then we generally use will with it. But when it comes to other subjects, for future continuous, we generally use will and not shall. So the sentence structure here will be you will be and then ing form of the verb, that is present participle form. Let's take the same verb speaking. So it will be you will be speaking, they will be speaking, he will be speaking, she will be speaking, it will be speaking, and you can also take somebody's name like Tanya will be speaking, Tarun will be speaking. Coming to the negative portion here, the same thing as we have done in every other tense till now, that just add a not after the auxiliary verb. So here shall and will become the model auxiliary verbs, and we'll add the word not between shall or will and be. So it will become shall not or will not. The contracted forms of this will be shan't or won't. So let's start making sentences here. I shall not be speaking. Or we will not be speaking. Similarly, with the rest of the subjects also, will not be speaking. Right? Next, they will not be speaking. He will not be speaking. She will not be speaking. It will not be speaking. Tanya will not be speaking. And Tarun will not be speaking. Now, if we use the contracted forms here, it will be shan't for shall not or won't for will not. Let's go to the interrogative structures. When we did simple future, at that time I had told you that we will not use will as the question word for first persons like I or we. Therefore, in the interrogative forms of the first persons, we'll only use shall. So the question will become like this: shall I or we, anything, not, if in case you are making a negative interrogative, or you can omit the word not and make a positive one. So shall I be speaking, and after the verb you will definitely add a question mark. Correct. So shall we not be speaking. Now coming to the other subjects, we'll use will as the question word here, and we can have sentences like: will you not be speaking? Will they be speaking? Will he not be speaking? Will she be speaking? Will it not be speaking? Will Tanya be speaking? Will Tarun be speaking? After the structures, let's go to see when to use this tense. Okay, so future continuous tense will take place when these reasons are there. First is for any future action that you want to express, but at a particular time when they are going to start. For example, I will be going to school in the morning. So will be going becomes your future continuous tense, and here you are also stating when you are going to school in the morning. Next, he will be visiting Uncle James in March at this time tomorrow. So here by this phrase you are expressing that at what particular time and when, like tomorrow, at this time tomorrow, we will be revising for the tests. Now if you look at the verbs here, going, visiting, revising, these verbs are the dynamic action verbs, which means a very specific action is happening here and the doer is moving while doing this action. It is not stative, it is dynamic. So for dynamic verbs, we generally use continuous tenses. Look at the next one. For actions which will not take place due to some reason. Suppose you are making a negative future continuous tense, then you got to give a reason also after it. For example, he will not be reaching the concert because he has missed the train. So for a negative action, if you're giving a reason also, then you can use it for future continuous tense. Next, you can also use this future continuous for very polite requests. For example, will you be visiting her tomorrow? Now, will you be visiting sounds much more polite than will you visit her tomorrow? So whenever you're making a request, please use it in future continuous tense, not in simple future tense. Now certain verbs will never be used in future continuous form. Let's look at all these examples and you will come to know. If you're working with emotional verbs, which for example, love, hate, anger, frustration, all these verbs which talk about emotions of a person, then these verbs will not be in future continuous tense. I have made sentences on both the tenses and I'm going to tell you which one is right and which one is wrong. So, you will be loving this car. No, it's wrong because love is an emotion. You cannot be you cannot have a continuous tense with it. So it will be you love this car. Next, working with the verbs of mental situations. Now here I have given an example on understand, right? So if I say he will be understanding my problem, then it is completely wrong, because the word understanding means a different thing, a quality of being understandable. But here the context is very different. Instead, I will use he will understand my problem. So this works. Let's go to the next one. When we are talking about verbs of possession, possession means belongingness, then we cannot use continuous tense. For example, she will be having a computer next month, which is absolutely wrong, because the word having means to eat. So obviously she is not going to eat the computer, she is going to possess the computer. So then in that case we will use simple future, like she will have a computer next month. Any other stative verb. Now stative verbs are those verbs which do not show an action explicitly, a very active action. Now such verbs will also not be used in continuous tense. For example, the phone will be costing 25,000 rupees. No, that's absolutely wrong. Instead, we will say the phone will cost 25,000 rupees. After seeing how to use future continuous tense, when to use it and when not to use it, it is very clear that continuous tenses are generally used with the verbs which are in dynamic form, not in stative form. By dynamic, I mean where the doer is actually performing an action, and only then we can say that that action was continued for some time. So after this tip, let me wrap up this video today, and in my next video I'll take up future perfect tense. Wait for the next video. Till then, take very good care of yourself and goodbye.